Hi everybody! Twitter is one of the most powerful social media channels in the 21st century. Unlike other social media platforms, Twitter has become a megaphone for the most important people on the planet, starting from world leaders to celebrities and even the most influential entrepreneurs on the planet. But if you were to be an investor in 2006, when Facebook had 12 million users and Myspace had 100 million users, and I come and tell you to invest into my social media platform, by which you cannot share pictures, you cannot share videos, and you can't even write blogs. All you could do is write a 140 character text message about your thoughts to the world. My question to you is, does this in any way look like a revolutionary idea to you? No, right? Well, that's exactly how the investors felt about Twitter back in 2006. Then the question is, what was so special about Twitter that it evolved into such a powerful social media platform? What exactly are the product design lessons that we need to learn from Twitter? And more importantly, if you're planning to design a digital product or a service, what are the lessons that we need to learn from this iconic case study? This video is brought to you by Vauld, but more on this at the end of the video. The answer to this question lies in the fundamental understanding of product design. To tell you about it, with respect to the distribution of the product, there are two types of products. Number one is a pipeline-driven product and number two is a platform-driven product. A classic example to understand the same would be to look at the iconic rise of iPhone. People back in 2007, 5 major mobile phone manufacturers, that is Nokia, Samsung, Motorola, Sony and LG, collectively controlled 90% of the industry's global profits. On the other hand, Apple was a weak, non-threatening player with less than 4% market share in desktop and 0% in mobile phones. But suddenly, out of nowhere, iPhone burst into the scene, and by 2015, in the first 3 quarters, iPhone single-handedly reported 92% of the global profits, and only Samsung barely managed to survive the iPhone wave. The question is, how do we explain iPhone's rapid domination in a market which was completely alien to Apple? As it turns out, while all these companies were making a product, Steve Jobs was actually building a platform out of the iPhone. And the most important asset that Apple possessed was not the iPhone, but an element called the App Store. And more importantly, it was Apple's idea to use the App Store as a platform to empower small-scale developers. And this strategy, ladies and gentlemen, gave Apple 3 incredible superpowers over the rest of its competition. Number one, the apps made surfing extremely easy and accessible because you no longer had to go to Google, type YouTube and then start surfing YouTube. Instead, you could just use the YouTube app and get started right away. So it fundamentally organized all the clutter of the internet for mobile phone usage. Number two, by empowering developers to develop whatever they wanted, Apple was indirectly trying to fulfill the micro requirements of its consumers. For example, Apple as a company could anticipate the need for an alarm app, but it definitely cannot anticipate the need for Candy Crush or a cam scanner app, right? Therefore, the utility value of the iPhone increased exponentially as compared to Nokia and Samsung when more and more developers started developing apps to suit the micro requirements of the customers. And lastly, the App Store created a network effect wherein more developers created more apps, inviting more consumers, leading to more developer demand, creating more value, hence attracting more and more consumers. Therefore, after a while, when people got habituated to using the iPhone apps, they got habituated to buying and paying for subscriptions, it created a retention hook that got people to buy an iPhone again. This, along with a high quality product, increased the customer retention of Apple by a large extent. This is how iPhone became the most powerful and the most revolutionary product of the decade. And this is the power of the platform-driven product. So to put that straight, while a pipeline product is a standalone element that gets created and distributed to the consumers by a single entity, a platform-driven product empowers smaller producers to create value for the micro requirements of the consumers. And this results into a network effect plus a retention hook to keep the customers coming back. And if this platform turns an existing process or an action into a more accessible and efficient process, that is when it becomes a revolutionary product. Now this begs the question, how did Twitter exactly follow this blueprint? Well, for this, let me take you back to Silicon Valley 2007. People back then in 2007 Twitter was a baby startup and they hardly had 5,000 tweets a day. Back then, Silicon Valley was, and it still is, the booming tech hub of the United States. It is an optimistic place where founders look for VCs to fund their dream company, and VCs look to build their wealth by finding potential unicorns. And because it was such a dreamland, the media buzz was a major driving force to get updates about the valley. So, startup news was a pipeline-driven content, and the broadcasting of news was only limited to the giant media outlets. And this clutter had three major disadvantages. Firstly, the content was extremely contaminated. So if a VC said something, there will be a PR department that will carefully curate the context of the quote, and at the same time, there will be another company that will put the same quote in a different context, which will lead to a controversy. And in today's world, the same thing happens with celebrities and politicians. Similarly, even the startups back then used to be hyped and purposefully demeaned. Secondly, only the media houses could decide what exactly was newsworthy. Therefore, they would only cover the most successful fundings in the valley or the most miserable failure stories in the valley. And lastly, the distribution was extremely scattered, meaning if you want to get the latest startup updates, you either had to turn on the TV or you had to look up tens of news channels online. And this is where the magic of Twitter came in. First of all, Twitter's own investors and founders joined Twitter, and in the race of getting in touch with these VCs, more founders joined the platform. Soon enough, it became the hub for founders and VCs to get in touch with without the media clutter. In fact, this was a time when the co-founder of LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman, actually joined Twitter. And within no time, entrepreneurs could see what the VCs were thinking and acting on. At the same time, the VCs could see what the founders were working on and who was working on which project. And in the same year, that's 2007, a popular startup conference called SXSW Conference was held in the Valley, which attracted a ton of startup founders and VCs from all across the country. And this is where, ladies and gentlemen, Twitter saw its first boom, wherein the number of tweets shot up from just 20,000 to 60,000 tweets in a single day. And this is where Twitter actually picked up. Soon enough, Twitter became an extremely lucrative platform for the startup community with three incredible superpowers. Number one, just like the App Store, Twitter turned an essential process of forming important connections and VC interaction into an extremely efficient process, because of which all Silicon Valley entrepreneurs could know what exactly was happening in the valley without the media clutter. Number two, while the media covered only the hype stories or the most popular topics, Twitter empowered seemingly unknown entrepreneurs and VCs to put out updates which would never be covered by the mainstream media. And eventually, it was one of the best ways to know what exactly was happening in the valley. Therefore, Twitter enabled VCs and entrepreneurs both to create value for each other as producers and consumers. And lastly, this accessibility and presence of producers in the form of VCs and entrepreneurs led to a network effect, attracting more and more people from all across the United States. And these people were joining Twitter merely to see what was happening in the startup space and to directly see and form connections with the important members in the community. So within no time, in 2007 itself, Twitter saw legends like Naval Ravikant, Kevin Rose and Mark Suster join the platform. Cherry on the cake, Barack Obama saw the potential of direct text broadcasting and took to Twitter in April 2007 to use it as a tool for presidential elections. And this was done just so that he could effectively communicate with his supporters without the media clutter. And this is where Twitter started catching fire, leading to thousands of people joining Twitter because of Barack Obama's network effect. This was the first pillar of Twitter's massive growth. Now the question over here is, Twitter was not the only social media platform, right? There were many other social media platforms like Orkut, Facebook, Myspace and others too. Then why did Twitter specifically succeed so well in the past 13 years? Well, that is because the Twitter team has been extremely sharp with introducing user-driven features. For example, they saw a lot of people using the @ symbol to say something to someone. So they turned it into a feature that would notify people if they were being mentioned. They saw people using hashtags. In fact, one of the users suggested that to Twitter to make content searchable. And Twitter was super quick to incorporate it as a feature, because of which Today, hashtags have become the standard norm for search and posting on social media platforms. Similarly, around 2013, they introduced Twitter alerts, which were extremely useful updates that were communicated to the people during the times of crisis. And this move turned out to be so revolutionary that in 2017, when Hurricane Harry hit the city of Houston, when 911 emergency lines were completely clogged, hundreds of people actually used Twitter to seek and offer help. This is how Twitter was able to tap into the micro requirements of the users, which no news channel could anticipate or even have the scale to cover. And this turned Twitter into the central hub for celebrities, political parties, and world leaders to become producers of content that eventually attracted the masses. And this brings me to the last question, and that is, how did Twitter succeed in spite of Facebook and Myspace? In fact, if you see, anything that you could do on Twitter could be done on Facebook, could be done on Myspace, right? Then how the hell did Twitter succeed? Well, long story short, always remember people, every time an information product becomes generalized and cluttered, it gets replaced by a specialized non-cluttered product. A classic example of the same is Instagram. Instagram is used to share photos and videos, which could be done through Facebook also, right? But the reason why you switch to Instagram is because Facebook became generalized and cluttered, and Instagram was specialized for photo sharing and was not so cluttered. And same is the case with WhatsApp. In fact, using Facebook Messenger that we all had back then, you could have texted even those people who were not there in your contacts. So technically, Facebook Messenger was more feature loaded as compared to WhatsApp. And yet, WhatsApp succeeded because it was specialized and not cluttered. Similarly, Twitter was the specialized non-cluttered platform for text content, all thanks to the 140 character limit. This is how, by evolving into a platform-driven product for micro news updates, Twitter transformed itself from being an ordinary social media platform to becoming the megaphone for world leaders and celebrities to communicate their message without the media clutter, without the stupid PR mess. At the same time, it has also empowered ordinary people to raise their voices and to start a movement by connecting under the canopy of their belief. The most wonderful example of the same being the Black Lives Matter movement. And this brings me to the most important part of the episode, and that are the business lessons from the case study and the study materials to help you dig deeper into product design. Lesson number 1. The world is now transforming from a pipeline-driven product to a platform-driven product, which is why even brands like Nike are now building platforms and are making strategic partnerships to keep their customers engaged with each other. So if possible, please read about the concept of community as a service. Lesson number 2. Customer retention is way more important than a meteoric rise. In this case, if you see, Clubhouse faded away because it did not have a retention hook, whereas the App Store had user data, personalization, and active subscriptions as a retention hook. In our case, Twitter has Twitter alerts, news updates, celebrity updates, and the most important updates from world leaders that has kept the customers hooked to the platform. And lastly, for further reading, please read this book called Tiny Habits and this book called Word of Mouth Marketing to understand customer experience design and viral marketing respectively. That's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.